Hello you two. Book for today, and I would like to tell you a little bit about it before we proceed to reading it, is called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland as it is known. And this edition, just in case that Serenity needs a new book, is published by Tate, and it's illustrated by Tove Jansson, who is the Finnish illustrator, and she did the Moment box. Anyway, back to Alice in Wonderland. It's written by Carroll, and what makes it so special, it's a real jewel of nonsense literature. There's lots of things that don't make sense, but the book is still absolutely amazing. It's a story about a girl called Alice, and she follows the rabbit and falls down the hall and goes into this incredible wonderland, has lots of adventures. One of the most, you're probably wondering, I am having just one tea, why do I have all this stuff on the table? One of the probably most famous parts of the book is when Alice has a tea party with a Mad Hatter, and I will read you a little extract from that part of the book. So I'm going to, on her adventures, she meets lots of different animals who are all talking, and as you're listening, maybe start thinking, if you were to go into a wonderland, what would be the talking animal that you would like to meet? What would that animal be like? How would the conversation with that animal go on? And I hope you have a lovely snack for your story, and maybe some mint tea or chamomile tea, or water, anything lovely that you like to drink. So after that long introduction, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. First chapter is called Down the Rabbit Hole, and this is the little illustration that goes with it. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation in it, and what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversation? So she was considering in her own mind, as well as she could, for hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up, picking the daisy, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close to her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think of it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to her, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought of it afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of his waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or watch to take out of it, and burning with curiosity she ran across the field after it, and fortunately was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was going to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some time, and dipped suddenly down, and suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very, very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung on pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labelled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody, so she managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. So she falls down the rabbit hole, and this is the illustration. I hope you could see the picture. There's Alice going down, down, down. Once she was down, her adventure started, and I don't have time to read all of it to you, but one part that is really lovely is advice from the caterpillar. The caterpillar and Alice looked at each other for some time in silence. At last, the caterpillar took the hope out of his mouth and addressed her in a sleepy voice. "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. This was not an encouraging opening to a conversation. Alice replied rather shyly. I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then." "What do you mean by that?" said the caterpillar sternly. "Explain yourself." "I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir," said Alice, "because I'm not myself, you see." "I don't see," said the caterpillar. "I'm afraid I can put it more clearly," Alice replied very politely, "for I can't understand it myself to begin with, and being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing." "It isn't," said Caterpillar. "Well, perhaps you haven't found it yet," said Alice, "but when you have to turn into chrysalis, you will someday, you know, and then after that into a butterfly, I should think you'll feel a little queer, won't you?" "Not a bit," said the caterpillar. "Perhaps your feelings might be different," said Alice. "All I know is I found it's very queer. It's very, very queer to me." "You," said Caterpillar contemptuously. "Who are you?" Which brought them back to the beginning of the conversation. Alice felt a little irritated at the caterpillars making such a very short remarks, and she drew herself up and said very gravely, "I think you ought to tell me who you are first." And at the Med Tea Party, let me first show you the picture of Alice talking to Caterpillar. It's a really lovely illustration, and I have things falling out of my book. And as I said, one of the most famous reasons for the table like this morning is a Mad Tea Party where Alice's meets a Mad Hatter. And the way they start communicating is that Mad Hatter says to Alice, "Your hair wants cutting," said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice for some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech. "You should learn not to make personal remarks," Alice said with some serenity. "It is very, very rude." The Hatter opened his eyes wide on hearing this, but all he said was, "Why is Raven like a writing desk?" "Come, we shall have some fun now," thought Alice. "I'm glad they began asking riddles. I believe I can guess that," she added aloud. "Do you mean that you can find out the answer to it?" said Mad Hatter. "Exactly," said Alice. So, I hope that you enjoyed a little bit of Alice in Wonderland, and that you will find out more about this